This is the Music History Today podcast for November the 17th. On today's show, John Lennon releases Double Fantasy and Ritchie Blackmore quits Deep Purple yet again. First up, though, on this date in 1913, pianist Madeline Salishin married film star Oliver Hardy of the comedy duo Laurel and Hardy. In 1930, the musical starring Fanny Brice called Sweet and Low opened on Broadway. In 1967, the company Beatles Limited became Apple Music Limited. In 1970, Elton John played a live set at what was then called WABC-FM radio in New York City. That set turned out to be the first live performance at an FM radio station. The performance was later turned into his album 11-17-70. In 1990, David Crosby got into a motorcycle accident. In 1993, Ritchie Blackmore left Deep Purple for the second time as he performed his final show with the group this time around on this night in Helsinki, Finland. In 1994, the musical Sunset Boulevard opened at the Minskoff Theater on Broadway. In 2000, the Rugrats in Paris, the movie, was released in theaters, which turned the song Who Let the Dogs Out by the Baha Men into a worldwide hit. In 2003, Blake Shelton married his wife, Kaynette Williams, in a private ceremony in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. In 2006, the singer known as the Queen of R&B, Miss Ruth Brown, passed away at the age of 78. In 2006, same day, the band The Sugar Cubes reunited for the first time since 1992 in order to celebrate the 20th anniversary of their song Birthday, which was their debut single. In 2014, singer Jimmy Ruffin of The Temptations passed away at the age of 78. In 2020, Shazam announced that Tones and I's hit single Dance Monkey was the most Shazammed song of all time. In award ceremonies that were held on November the 17th in 2003, Britney Spears received her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Albums that were released on November the 17th include in 1971 when Miles Davis released Live Evil, Laura Nyro released Gonna Take a Miracle, and Bob Dylan released his Greatest Hits Volume 2. In 1972, the Moody Blues released Seventh Sojourn. In 1975, ABBA released their Greatest Hits album, and Tommy Bolin released Teaser. In 1977, Bette Midler released Broken Blossom. In 1978, The Doors released An American Prayer. In 1979, The Jam released Setting Suns. In 1980, John Lennon released his last album while he was still alive, Double Fantasy. He would end up being shot and killed only about 3-4 weeks after he released this album. Also, in 1980, The Fall released Grotesque After the Gram. In 1982, Chaka Khan released her self-titled album, which was a big album for her. In 1986, The released Infected, but only in the UK on that date. And also on that same date, Robert Cray released Strong Persuader, and The Kinks released Think Visual. In 1987, Earth, Wind & Fire released Touch the World. In 1992, Ice Cube released The Predator, and the humongous best-selling soundtrack to the movie The Bodyguard was released on that date. In 1998, Mariah Carey released her huge hit Number Ones, which was her greatest hits album, which also became a humongous hit album. Also having a humongous hit album on that date was Garth Brooks' Double Live. Whitney Houston also released My Love Is Your Love on that date, as did The Offspring's releasing Americana, Jewel releasing Spirit, and speaking of Whitney Houston, the Prince of Egypt soundtrack was released on that date, and that soundtrack had the song If I believe correctly, with Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey doing vocal duties on that particular song. In 2003, Kylie Minogue released Body Language, U2 released Go Home live from Slane Castle, and Tori Amos released Tales of a Librarian. In 2008, Mariah Carey released The Ballads, which was a huge hit for her. The Damned released So Who's Paranoid? In 2009, Janet Jackson released number ones, The Best. Norah Jones released The Fall. Paul McCartney released Good Evening New York City. And Rush released Working Men. In 2014, David Bowie released Nothing Has Changed. And in 2017, Bob Seger released I Knew You When. Singles that were released on November the 17th include in 1958 when Jackie Wilson released Lonely Teardrops, which was a big hit. In 1966, the Easy Beats released Friday on My Mind. In 1972, the J. Giles Band released Hard Drive and Man, the live version. And on that same day, Slade released Goodbye T-Jane. In 1987, U2 released In God's Country, and in 2017, Luis Fonsi and Demi Lovato released Échame la Culpa. Before we continue, we'd like to tell you that we've started Season 2 of the Music History In-Depth podcast, where we go more in-depth on some of the events that we mention on this particular podcast. The Music History In-Depth podcast drops every Tuesday on this podcast network. Now, back to the Music History Today podcast. Artists who were born on November the 17th include singer-songwriter Jeff Buckley, singer and also the creator of RuPaul's Drag Race, RuPaul, singer-songwriter Gordon Lightfoot, Jerry McGee of the Ventures, Isaac Hansen of Hanson, Ronnie DeVoe of Belle Biv DeVoe and also New Edition, Ben Wilson of Blues Traveler, Jim Babjack of the Smithereens, Dean Paul Martin of Dino, Desi, and Billy, Ian Sutherland of the Sutherland Brothers, Rod Clements of Lindisfarne, Stookie Anthony of the Nas, Martin Barry of Jethro Tull, Gene Clark of the Byrds, Bob Guardio of the Four Seasons, Peter Cox of Go West, Lord Infamous of 3-6 Mafia, Sarah Harding of Girls Aloud, singer Tab Benoit, singer Eric Nam, singer Devin Gordon, singer Heavenly Joy, rappers Sada Baby, and singer Ethan Carpathy. Artists who unfortunately passed away on November the 17th, other than the ones mentioned earlier, include songwriter Ballard McDonald, jazz pianist James P. Johnson, trumpet player Wooden Joe Nicholas, pianist Marcel Mayer, composer Victor Alessandro, composer and conductor Heater Villalobos, singer Bob Eberly of the Jimmy Dorsey Band, singer and actress Irene Wicker, record producer Peter Welding, guitarist Michael Caroli, singer Arthur Conley, country music guitarist and songwriter Don Gibson, singer Flo Sandins, album cover designer and graphic artist Guy Peelart, rapper Florian Condi of the West Side Family, jazz pianist Dave Frischberg, guitarist Keith Allison of Paul Revere and the Raiders, country music songwriter Abe Stoklasa, and Vladimir Lyovkin of the group Nana. Next on the Music History Today podcast, it is November the 18th, when in 2003, police raided Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch.